Lots of people have dreadlocks. Everyone seems to know what they are, but very few people seem to know where they come from and what meanings they carry. These days, people don dreadlocks for all sorts of reasons. Some want to show they're politically progressive. Others want to show they're reggae chill. Still others might want to just distance themselves from the mainstream in some way. Some wear dreadlocks as an act of fashion or perhaps as an expression of cultural affinity. But what exactly are these things called dreadlocks? What exactly is it that's contained in a lock of hair that's meant to fill us with a sense of dread? Dreadlocks have actually been around for a long, long time, though they weren't known actually as dreadlocks. Dreadlocks are really just a form of matted hair, and matted hair has been around as long as there's been, well, hair. Though I wouldn't recommend it. If you stop washing and combing your hair, after a while, you'll get matted hair. Sages, soothsayers, holy men, and yes, holy women have long been associated with matted hair in a wide variety of cultural and religious contexts. Why? Well, grooming of the hair and of the body tends to be associated with social convention, and thus having matted hair signified that a person had somehow rejected social convention or had withdrawn from society or transcended social values. In this context, what separates dreadlocks from matted hair is that they were intentional. Someone had to care enough about their hair to show that they didn't really care. What we now call dreadlocks are associated with specific political and cultural transformations that took place in Jamaica around the mid-20th century. In the 1950s, there were a number of social and political movements that were competing with one another to define the voice of what would soon become an independent Jamaica. Jamaica had a long history of revolt and rebellion during its period of colonial rule under Britain. But with the looming reality of independence, which came in 1962, the possibility of meaningful and substantive change had energized the political and cultural landscape of Jamaica. One of the groups that was active in the city of Kingston, Jamaica, was a group known as Youth Black Faith. By the 1950s, they had specifically adopted dreadlocks. They did this to distance themselves from the conformist pressures of mainstream society and also to announce a certain sort of fearlessness in the face of authority. This new, unkempt hairstyle of Youth Black Faith was meant to invoke dread in the eyes of the authorities and in the eyes of those conformists who were willing to compromise with so-called respectable social values in mainstream society. Hairstyles thus became kind of a form of political and cultural identification, with the dreads on one side representing rebellion and the combers on the other representing respectability. Many people associate dreadlocks with Bob Marley, and while his decision to adopt the hairstyle was certainly a conscious one, he did not start the trend himself. Indeed, if you've seen early pictures of Bob Marley, you would know that he was something of a comber. He didn't do this because he accepted the values and social practices of mainstream society, but rather because he rejected the militancy and the violence that had become associated with those who had adopted the hairstyle of dreadlocks. Over time, the dreadlock hairstyle spread to other groups, particularly the Rastafarians, for whom the hairstyle came to have spiritual and biblical significance. Too much concern with the razor or comb or the scissors, for instance, was a sign of excessive vanity, a first step away from the true path of spirituality. In the process of spreading to other groups, the hairstyle was slowly emptied of its associations with militancy and violence. Eventually, it came to symbolize a combination of spirituality, community, even a struggle for justice, especially among the marginalized populations of Jamaica. From there, the wearing of dreadlocks spread to the rest of the world, particularly on the backs of its musical muse in the form of reggae. Though it is sometimes misunderstood even by those who wear it, one thing is certainly true. Dreadlocks are no longer a thing of dread. All of this does raise one last question. If no one dreads them anymore, why do we still call them dreadlocks? Did the revolutionaries of yesterday become the combers of today? Did the prophets of the past become the peddlers of the present? Don't know. You decide. In the meantime, live strong, stay cool, love always. I can't think of any better way.